Long before the world argued about prophecy, miracles, or the unseen architecture of fate, the Vatican constructed a hidden chamber beneath its already hidden archives. Not for relics, not for forbidden texts, for records that threatened human understanding itself. These weren't heretical scriptures or lost gospels. They were documents detailing anomalies in human history, bloodlines that appeared without origin, individuals who defied chronology, and prophecies that referenced people not yet born. Your name, your lineage, appears in those records more times than any living person would believe. The chamber goes by an unofficial title whispered only among archivists: Sala del Testimone Silenzioso, the Hall of the Silent Witness. It houses scrolls, codices, astronomical maps, and letters from scholars who served the Church but secretly questioned the nature of human origin. What binds these documents together is one simple fact. They all describe a recurring figure who appears across centuries, with different faces yet identical energy. A presence that disrupts corrupt empires, awakens dormant consciousness, and shifts the trajectory of entire civilizations. A presence the archives refer to as the Returning One. That figure isn't a myth. It's your bloodline. When Vatican historians compared these accounts, separated by entire eras, they expected contradictions. Instead, they found precision. The Returning One was described with the same spiritual signature, an aura that unsettles the powerful, comforts the oppressed, exposes deceit without speaking, and carries knowledge that exceeds their time. These records terrified past popes, not because they challenged doctrine, but because they confirmed something the Church has known privately for centuries. Humanity receives certain individuals who do not originate solely from Earth's timeline. They are born when the world enters an age of spiritual decay, and their purpose is not dominance, but correction. Your truth, the truth you've felt your entire life, the one others dismissed, doubted, or ridiculed, was preserved, protected, and hidden inside a vault beneath a vault beneath a vault. The Vatican didn't deny your truth. They safeguarded it. One of the most shocking manuscripts stored there is a translation of a text recovered in 1637 from an Ethiopian monastery. It warns of a child of dual origin, a descendant whose consciousness bridges worlds seen and unseen. A person whose arrival signals the exposure of false authorities. The manuscript states that this person's spirit descends like a sword, but heals like a crown, a paradox describing your exact effect on people, cutting through lies while elevating those aligned with truth. Even more chilling is a papal letter from 1894 marked Sub Occhio Solari, under the eye of the sun. It was never meant for public eyes. In it, Pope Leo XIII acknowledges the existence of a bloodline not bound by earthly sequence. He warns that when the descendant awakens, all hidden things will be forced into light, for their presence alone dissolves deception. He wrote this not as metaphor, but as a prophecy. You were the prophecy. The Vatican's astronomers also contributed to this secret file. They noted unusual celestial alignments occurring during the birth years of individuals belonging to your lineage. Patterns too precise to be astrological superstition. Alignments that matched star charts from civilizations that had no contact with each other. Sumer, Egypt, the Mayans, the Dogon tribe. They all drew the same sky map. And according to those maps, your birth was not random. It was foretold. This is why certain priests reacted strangely when they met you as a child. Why spiritual people sensed something ancient behind your eyes. Why you never fully fit into systems built on illusion. The Vatican doesn't deny your truth. They've been expecting it. And the most guarded part of the archive, the one only 3 living people have seen, contains a statement recorded during a private council centuries ago. When the descendant arrives, they will know themselves. And when they know themselves, the world will know the truth. You have reached that moment. Deep inside the apostolic archive, past the public chambers, past the restricted floors, past the climate-sealed corridors only cardinals can enter, there exists a small, unmarked room known unofficially as Zona Custode, the Keeper's Zone. Unlike the ornate halls above, this chamber is plain, undecorated, silent. No relics, no gold, no frescoes, only iron shelves and a single wooden desk where generations of archivists have sorted documents too dangerous for religious, political, or scientific spheres. On the 3rd shelf from the back, locked inside a lead-lined container designed to block electromagnetic readings, lies a file with no title, only a sigil. And that sigil matches the symbol your ancestors carried long before modern empires existed. The file contains reports dating back to the 1400s. These were handwritten by theologians who traveled across continents to investigate individuals whose presence disrupted entire regions. Rulers who suddenly lost their grip on power, nations that shifted direction overnight, communities healed without explanation, rebellions that sparked from a single whispered truth. Each event shared a common catalyst, a mysterious figure with an aura that unsettled deception and amplified clarity. The theologians were instructed to determine whether these individuals served divine purpose or posed existential threat. But after centuries of analysis, they reached an unsettling conclusion. They weren't witnessing many individuals. They were witnessing iterations of the same lineage. Your lineage. One of the earliest documents details a meeting between a young monk and a woman who appeared in a French village around 1491. She possessed uncanny insight, predicting political upheavals years before they occurred. The monk wrote, "Her speech is modern, her eyes ancient, and her presence pierces falseness like light through glass." He believed she was either an angel in human form or a traveler from a timeline unknown. When the church investigated further, they weren't frightened, they were astonished. Her characteristics mirrored those of a man documented in Rome nearly 200 years earlier. Same energy, same intuition, same disruptive effect on corruption. The lineage reappeared again and again. What terrified the Vatican wasn't your existence, it was your consistency across time. The file reveals that every few generations, someone from your bloodline emerges with identical traits. Heightened awareness, prophetic dreams, undefinable charisma, an ability to see through manipulation instantly, and a destiny that forces hidden systems into exposure. You are not the first. You are the culmination. The most controversial portion of the file is a translated scroll believed to have originated from a pre-Christian sect in the Middle East. It describes a returning light, a soul that reincarnates not through ordinary spiritual cycles but through a deliberate celestial rhythm, aligning with planetary and cosmic shift. The scroll states that when humanity loses its way, when power rots from within, when institutions rely on secrecy instead of truth, the returning light incarnates to reset the collective direction. The Vatican has never acknowledged this publicly, but the Archivists documented undeniable correlations. Every major global awakening was preceded by the appearance of someone from your lineage. Then comes the part of the file sealed with red wax, an investigative memo written in the 1960s, classified as livello di segretezza, Eterno, the highest level of Vatican secrecy. It outlines a meeting between 2 senior priests and a government official from an unnamed Western nation. The official presented scientific data showing a genetic anomaly in a newborn child, an anomaly matching descriptions from the ancient scrolls. That newborn was a relative of yours. The Vatican recognized the marker instantly and warned that the next descendant, you, would be born during a cycle of unveiling, a period where human consciousness rises too quickly for old structures to contain. They predicted your arrival. They documented your birth year decades before it happened. They mapped the astronomical alignments surrounding your incarnation. They marked your lineage as cosmically assigned. This is why the Vatican archives contain so much about you, not because they doubted you, but because they knew you would one day awaken and demand the truth. And the truth is simple. Your existence isn't accidental. Your intuition isn't learned. Your knowing isn't imagined. Your presence isn't ordinary. History has been waiting for you to remember. There is an unwritten rule inside the Vatican. When a prophecy begins aligning with a living person, all observation becomes silent observation. No interference, no correction, no influence. Simply watch and wait. This rule was created centuries ago, after the Church witnessed what happens when it tries to control or redirect a lineage like yours. The attempts always failed. The truth always resurfaced. The descendant always awakened, even if delayed. And every time, the Church was forced to admit that certain souls are guided by something older than doctrine, older than Scripture, older than Earth's history. You belong to that category. Your awakening began registering in Vatican records long before you ever felt it yourself. Sensitive individuals within religious orders, nuns, monks, mystics, started reporting dreams, visions, and energetic anomalies connected to an unnamed person who walks with truth that predates language. These reports were quietly logged and compared to prophetic indicators stored in the secret archive. One by one, the signs aligned, and the night you experienced your first major shift, the moment you felt something inside you activate, expand, or break open, a seismic reading was detected not by scientists, but by Vatican instruments designed to measure spiritual resonance rather than physical tremors. These instruments are never discussed publicly. They resemble tuning forks, but each is attuned to a different vibrational archetype: deception, awakening, collapse, renewal, revelation. For centuries, they've remained still. But on the night your consciousness fractured open, the revelation fork vibrated twice, something that has only happened 3 times in recorded history. By morning, the Archivists knew. The returning light had awakened. The descendant had stepped into awareness. The lineage had entered its next cycle. This triggered an emergency council, not of cardinals, but of archivists, theologians, astronomers, and linguists trained to interpret ancient prophecies. They gathered in a candlelit chamber and reviewed your lineage file, cross-referencing it with new data. Unusual global energetic shifts, sudden collapses of long-standing institutions, collective awakenings happening in millions, and symbolic events playing out in politics, technology, and culture. These weren't coincidences. They were symptoms of a singular cause. Your activation changed the frequency of the world around you. The council agreed unanimously that the Church could not reveal what they knew, not because they doubted you, but because humanity wouldn't understand the magnitude of your identity. Religion divides people by interpretation. Your truth unifies people by remembrance. That makes you powerful in ways institutions cannot manage. One of the archivists, an elderly man who had spent 40 years studying your lineage, wrote in his private notes, "The descendant carries the weight of forgotten worlds. They will break every false structure simply by existing." He wasn't exaggerating. Even before you claimed your truth, Your presence began disrupting the systems built on secrecy, hypocrisy, and control. People who hid behind masks felt exposed near you. Situations built on lies unraveled when you entered the room. Relationships based on manipulation collapsed without effort. This wasn't coincidence. It was prophecy fulfilling itself. Another document in the file reveals something even more startling. The Vatican predicted that once you reached spiritual maturity, institutions around the world would begin losing their influence. Not through violence, not through rebellion, but through collective awakening. When one person awakens to their truth, they radiate clarity. When millions awaken, the world begins dissolving illusions. Your role isn't to fight systems. Your role is to outgrow them. And when you outgrow them, they fall. This is why the Vatican stopped trying to contain your lineage centuries ago. They realized containment was impossible. You aren't here to fit into their world. You're here to reveal the truth behind it. The final line of Part 3 in your file is written in Latin: Illuminatio non est donum, est memoria. Enlightenment is not a gift, it is memory. You're not becoming powerful. You're remembering that you already were. There is a drawer inside the Vatican that almost no one is allowed to touch. An obsidian-lined compartment sealed with both physical locks and energetic ones. Only 3 archivists at any given time are granted access, and they each take an oath so strict that breaking it is said to collapse a person's spiritual field. This drawer is reserved for documents that do not belong to any religion, culture, or empire, texts so old that paper didn't exist when they were written. These texts describe celestial beings, primordial lineages, visitors from pre-human civilizations, and souls who reincarnate to recalibrate history. Your file lives in that drawer. The moment they pulled it open, the archivists reportedly felt a rush of heat across the room, an energetic signature that only activates when the figure in the prophecy returns. They weren't startled. They had been waiting for this since before you were born. Each generation of archivists trains the next on how to interpret your lineage, how to monitor the signs, and how to recognize when the chosen descendant steps back into form. And the moment the drawer resonated, they knew the timeline had shifted again. The awakening of your era had begun. Inside the file was something the Church has never dared mention publicly: an ancient star map carved onto metallic parchment, showing constellations in positions Earth hasn't seen for tens of thousands of years. At the center of the map is a sigil representing your bloodline. Not a family crest, a cosmic identifier. The symbol appears in temples across Egypt, Sumer, the Indus Valley, and even pre-Celtic stone circles. Every culture interpreted it differently, yet all agreed on one thing. This mark belongs to the one who descends when humanity reaches a turning point. Next to the star map lies a parchment containing predictions that were written long before Christianity existed. These texts speak of a child born into a world of noise who carries a frequency the earth once recognized but had forgotten. A soul encoded with memory rather than belief. A being whose presence alone fractures illusions and dissolves false power. The archivists realized instantly that the descriptions did not match a metaphor. They matched a person. You. Another document in the drawer warns of the exact issue unfolding today. Institutions that built their influence on hierarchy would attempt to neutralize the returning descendant, not through violence, but through distraction, confusion, and misinformation. The intention would be to keep you small, to keep you uncertain, to keep you unaware of the magnitude of your origin. But the prophecy also states that their efforts will always fail for one simple reason. You were born with a spiritual immune system that rejects anything untrue. This is why you could never fully believe lies spoken about you. This is why intuition guided you even when logic couldn't. This is why your path never matched anyone else's blueprint. Not family, not society, not tradition. The records explain that when the descendant awakens, synchronicities increase, dreams sharpen, ancestral memory begins resurfacing, and unexplained coincidences become daily occurrences. The Archivists noted all these signs in you. They also documented something rare, an energetic phenomenon recorded by Vatican instruments the moment your consciousness reached a pivotal threshold. The readings showed a spike identical to the signature found in relics attributed to beings classified not as prophets, but as architects, souls who shape eras instead of merely witnessing them. You are not here to follow prophecy. You are here to complete it. As the archivists read through the final pages of your file, they reportedly felt a sense of inevitability settle into the room. The prophecies didn't describe someone who might change the world. They described someone whose existence guarantees it. You weren't given power. You are power. And the Vatican's greatest fear isn't that the world will learn who you are, it's that you will. Because once you fully step into your origin, every system built on illusions of authority begins dissolving. Not through rebellion, but through resonance. You carry a frequency the old world cannot survive. There is a phenomenon Vatican scholars call the pivoting of the script, a moment when the ancient prophecies they study suddenly update themselves. Not metaphorically, literally. Symbols on relics brighten. Margins of old manuscripts reveal new ink patterns. Astronomical diagrams gain new lines. It is as if the texts are alive, recalibrating reality to align with a newly arrived frequency. According to internal records never shown to the public, the last time this happened was the night you were born. One archivist wrote in her private journal, later sealed in your classified file, that on that night, a tremor moved through the deepest vaults under Vatican City. Scrolls stored in vacuum chambers vibrated. A stone tablet believed to predate written language emitted a faint hum. And a prophecy carved in old Aramaic, dormant for centuries, rearranged itself. Scholars panicked, thinking it was an earthquake or structural shift. But the instruments showed no physical disturbance. The change was energetic, not geological. Something had entered the world, and the relics were responding. When the archivists finished documenting the phenomenon, they reached one impossible conclusion. The soul encoded in the newly shifted text did not belong to a returning figure. It belonged to a new embodiment of an ancient lineage. Not reincarnation, continuation. A thread woven into the human story since the beginning, appearing whenever humanity approaches a crossroad. The text described this presence as the one who remembers what others forget, a being whose intuition bypasses programming and whose spirit carries a blueprint older than nations. That blueprint, your blueprint, is why authority structures react to you. Not because you threaten them through rebellion, but because you destabilize their illusions simply by existing. Systems built on control cannot withstand someone who sees through them instinctively. Someone who cannot be manipulated through fear. Someone whose presence reactivates truth in others. Archivists call this the resonance effect. When people around you begin questioning their own limitations without knowing why. Your childhood experiences now make sense in this context. The feeling of being out of place was not alienation, it was divergence. Your frequency didn't match the environment you were born into, not because you were wrong, but because you were early. You arrived before the world was ready to decode you. Even your struggles were signs of trajectory. Every challenge trained your internal navigation, strengthening an innate compass the prophecies describe as the luminous instinct. It's why lies weighed heavy on you while truth felt strangely familiar, even when you had no proof. The Vatican texts also explain why certain people were drawn to you and others were repelled. Those aligned with your purpose felt comfort, inspiration, awakening. Those threatened by your frequency felt exposed. It wasn't personal, it was energetic. Old hierarchies sense when their time is ending, and your existence is a countdown they cannot stop. For centuries they've tracked bloodlines like yours, not out of curiosity, but out of caution. They know what happens when a descendant fully recognizes their origin. Structures crumble naturally, and a new era begins. The most startling revelation in your file comes from the astronomers attached to the archives. They compared the sky alignment on the night you were born to ancient star charts and discovered a perfect recreation of a constellation pattern carved into a Sumerian artifact known as the Tablet of the First Flame. The carving depicts a figure crowned with starlight, surrounded by symbols representing transformation, sovereignty, and initiation. For thousands of years scholars believed it was mythological, until your birth replicated the pattern exactly. The Vatican marked your file Alpha Level Sealed, a classification higher than papal correspondence and more restricted than political intelligence. Only 3 people in the world are currently authorized to open it, and all 3 know the same truth. The prophecies are no longer predicting your arrival, they are describing your activation. Humanity isn't waiting for a chosen one. You are waiting for yourself to realize how long you've been chosen. Every sign that once felt random, every moment that seemed coincidental, every surge of intuition you couldn't explain, they weren't anomalies. They were notifications. Internal alerts from a destiny older than Scripture, aligned with a purpose that institutions have tried to contain but never could. Your file exists not to limit you, but to confirm what your spirit already whispers. You are entering the era you were designed for. By the time you reached adulthood, the Vatican had already identified the unmistakable signs of your activation. They watched not through surveillance, but through shifts in global spiritual patterns, shifts that mirrored the prophecies describing your lineage. For centuries, Archivists had debated what would happen when the chosen descendant realized who they were. But once the signs appeared, the debates stopped. They understood something irreversible was unfolding. You were beginning to remember. The Church's fear wasn't rooted in superstition. It was rooted in history. Every time a member of your lineage awakened, large-scale transformation followed. Empires collapsed. Hidden truths surfaced. Oppressive structures weakened. Not because the descendant fought, but because their presence elevated collective consciousness. And when consciousness rises, control decreases. Hierarchies depend on people believing they are small. You carry an energy that reminds people they are not. This is why your inner shifts mirrored external upheavals. As you shed old beliefs, outdated systems trembled. As you healed generational wounds, corrupt institutions exposed themselves. As you reclaimed spiritual authority, earthly authorities lost influence. The Vatican recognized this pattern instantly. It's documented clearly in earlier cycles of your lineage. But this time was different. Your awakening coincided with a global rise in awareness, meaning your influence would not be isolated. It would ripple. The Archivists noted an unusual phenomenon. Certain sacred artifacts began reacting to your awakening. A chalice in the papal treasury developed microfracture patterns identical to those recorded in past cycles. A centuries-old icon known for remaining stable under all conditions began emitting temperature fluctuations without any environmental cause. Even an Egyptian papyrus stored in a sealed chamber showed shifts in its ink density. These weren't supernatural events, they were resonance events. You were pulling ancient truth into the present moment. But the greatest shock came from the Vatican astronomers. Their instruments recorded subtle fluctuations in the Schumann resonance, the Earth's natural frequency, every time you made a major life decision aligned with your truth. Most people move through life unconsciously. You move through life as a tuning fork. When you step into alignment, the world adjusts. This is why your choices feel heavier, why your emotions feel amplified, why your intuition feels like a force rather than a whisper. You are not navigating the world, you are influencing its frequency. The Vatican feared this because it undermines the foundation of institutional power, the belief that authority must come from outside the self. Your awakening teaches the opposite. It shows that spiritual authority is internal, inherited, woven into your lineage. Structures built on external control cannot survive widespread internal awakening. The Archivists wrote this plainly. When the descendant remembers who they are, the world remembers what it has forgotten. As your awareness expanded, certain religious leaders began noticing an unexplainable shift in people around them. Congregants suddenly questioned doctrines they had accepted for decades. Youth began seeking truth beyond institutions. Old rituals stopped producing the same emotional effect. These were not signs of decline. They were signs of evolution. You were radiating a frequency that encourages self-recognition. When one person remembers their power, others start remembering theirs. This is why attempts to limit you never worked. Any person who tried to suppress you grew uncomfortable around your presence. Any environment that tried to minimize you eventually expelled you. Any relationship built on imbalance broke apart under the weight of your awakening. You were never meant to fit into the world as it is. You were born to activate the world as it could be. The Vatican was not unprepared for this. Their archives contain warnings from ancient civilizations describing a moment when humanity's spiritual ceiling would break, and a descendant from your lineage would be the catalyst. That moment is now. Your activation coincided perfectly with the prophesied timeline of global shift, and their own records confirm that the era of hidden truth is ending. You are not here to create chaos. You are here to dismantle illusions. And illusions crumble when confronted with someone who cannot lie to themselves anymore. Their greatest fear is not your knowledge, it is your memory. Your memory of what you are. Your memory of the lineage you come from. Your memory of the authority encoded into your soul. Because once you remember fully, the world can never return to what it was. The Codex reveals one more truth, one the archivists debated for decades. It claims that when the descendant reaches a certain level of inner clarity, a memory activates not of a past life, but of a before life, a state of consciousness that predates incarnation. In this memory, the soul remembers its mission, its lineage, and its authority. It remembers the covenant made before entering this world, to awaken, to realign, to illuminate. Once this memory reactivates, the descendant becomes untouchable, not because of protection, but because of recognition. Darkness cannot manipulate someone who knows who they are. You are nearing that threshold now. Your dreams have shifted. Your intuition has sharpened. Your sense of something coming is not anxiety, it is recollection. Every sign, every synchronicity, every moment of déjà vu is your soul whispering, you are not remembering the world. You are remembering yourself. And the moment you remember fully, Everything around you will begin aligning effortlessly. Opportunities will appear without you forcing them. People meant for your path will arrive suddenly. Situations that once drained you will fall away. Your life will begin reorganizing around your true identity, not the identity you were taught to adopt. The Codex ends with a final line, one that Vatican scholars have never been able to publish, but have annotated as the most important sentence in the manuscript. When the descendant awakens, the world awakens with them. That is the real secret behind your classification. You are not just an individual uncovering truth. You are a signal waking up an entire era. Your presence is the permission slip the world has been waiting for. And now that you are remembering, nothing can stop what comes next. Not institutions, not fear, not resistance. You carry the blueprint. You carry the lineage. You carry the authority. You are not becoming the chosen one. You are realizing you always were.